I did videos on green wools, yellow wools, light neutrals. Now it's time for blue. Now, blue could be sky, it could be water, it could be a building, it could be florals. It can be anything you want it to be. You could even take one of these blue wools and overdye it and make it your own color, right? There's lots of things that you can do with them. Whatever it is, you're bound to find something here. Let me show you what I got. This first wool is B4. It's one of the first wools that I bought in yardage. It's kind of a rough weave, which is kind of like what we had available to us. It does mat down, but you might have to wash it more than once, depending on how thick and fluffy you like to use your wools. The next one is B6. This one hooks up in sort of a medium tone. It does take on a very blue character. So even though you can see a lot of different colors in here, it really does hook up as a blue. I'll use this a lot of times for the background with a darker blue for the border. And then maybe use that darker blue as the first outline around the motifs too. Really creates a striking background. This is my go-to wool for when I'm hooking blue jeans. Now I'll have to penny dye some of it or marry it with a navy blue in order to get a darker shadow, because when you're hooking blue jeans, you almost always need two shadows, even if it's dark on one leg and light on the other. But usually down one side will do the darkness. But this hooks up really nice. It's not an in-your-face blue. It tends to recede into the background. And the way this is set up, the way the salvage works, is when you hook it, you're cutting it this way, and you just get a nice a nice subtle blue that looks like blue jeans. Good old B12. I love this wool. I don't have much of it. It's got a really large repeat. You spread it out so you can kind of see it. And the first time I saw it, Rebecca Erb was hooking a vase with it. And it was like, oh my God, what are you hooking with? I thought I knew all her wools. Well, it turns out it was a brand new wool that hadn't been released yet. So I got to see it right from the beginning, and I fell in love with it right from the start. Again, a little bit of a herringbone going on, so you know it's going to live well in your rug and play nicely with others. This one gives you a bunch of different colors all at once. Again, this would be one that I would cut with the stripes and then sort it down and use these different colors. This is a great way to start a color plan. You simply start with a wool like this, and this is a color plan for your rug. You could add in some greens, you could add in some reds, but this gives you a good starting point, and it gives you all these different colors that work beautifully together because there's a little bit of the same color in all of them. This one always surprises me when I hook it. It doesn't look like this when you hook it. This is a blue that is very blue when it's flat. When it's hooked up and put in with other things, it tends to look a little bit gray. So if you're looking for a gray that's not flat, that's not dead, this might be a good alternative. This would be good for gray roofs. It would be good for flowers. I use it as a beauty line because it's got a lot of interest in it, and it keeps that part really interesting. This is a wool that surprised me. It's really thin. It kind of feels like cotton. It doesn't even feel like wool. The vendor showed it to me. I kind of wrinkled my nose and wanted to move on, but she said, no, no, no. Look at it washed. And washed, it was acceptable. Now, it wasn't great, but the color is phenomenal. I'll use this for what I call spooky wool in a landscape. You're hooking a forest, and you've got these weird little places between the trees that's dark. That's what something like this is perfect for. This is also great for borders and backgrounds, but it has this wonderful, luscious color that I can forgive the less than perfect hand of this wool. When you get it, it's going to be really flat. It's going to feel really thin, but it does fluff up. But just know that it doesn't fluff up into the perfect wools that we buy today. But you can't find this color anywhere else. This is a great blue that I've used for tons of things. I've used this in water. I find that I also need a lighter version of something to go with it, but it gives me the deep, rich colors that I long for in water. And cut this direction, you can have individual strips that you can pull out. I also like this for backgrounds. I like it for borders. Anything where you need a dark, dull blue. This is another great primitive piece. And for those of you who like purple, this is one of the few purples. It's a purple heather. It's a bit of a herringbone, but it's so subtle. It doesn't really come through when you're hooking it. It does hook more like a salad, but a little softer than what a salad would, particularly for this value, because it's got the other threads going through it. But I love this for backgrounds. I'll mix it with dark background. There's a lot of different things you can do with this wool. This one is an older wool, and it looks old when you hook it. It looks like worn out fabric, and you cut it with the stripes, and you've got different stripes that you can do different things with. You can use the one with the little white thread going through it as an accent on a flower. Imagine that at the tip of a blue petal. Wouldn't that be wonderful? There's a lot of different things you can do with it. If you decide you don't like that little white thread, you could marry this and smush it down and make it so the colors are a little bit more even. B027, one of my all-time favorites. It's a great background. It's called Fantasia by the vendor. It has a lot of dark colors, and when it's hooked, it basically looks like a black until you put light on it, and then you see all the other colors. One of my absolutely favorites, B031. This is Sky, primitive Sky. It's the easiest Sky. When I got a brand new hooker, I give them G52 for the ground and B031 for the Sky, and then all we have to do is pick out the other little parts. Makes it super, super simple. This is a great wool, and I'll be sad when this one's gone, but B031 is the number of this particular wool. B032, lots of colors in here. You can separate out the colors and use them. This would be a great addition, particularly if you're hooking a very primitive floral design. You could add this and add colors that reflect these colors and use this as sort of your palette, and then just bring in more wools that coordinate with just this one. This would be a great color planning piece for a simple primitive rug. You could go anywhere with this. B033, a great flicker of a bright turquoise on a bit of a slight olive with gray and navy. Again, it's going to hook up a little bit on the dark side, but this would be great any place you want a little bit of a pattern, particularly in floral rugs, but geometrics and all over primitives. Hey, you might even have a blue cow, right? This is a fun wool. It gives you all these different colors to work with, and when you're cutting them, you could cut it either way. Of course, if you're going to follow cutting it according to the salvage, you're going to cut it this way, right? But you could cut it this way if you wanted more of a blue to work with, you know, maybe to hook some flowers or a blue cow. That could be your blue cow. And here's a luscious red that when you incorporate that with other wools, it is just delightful. I always think of spring with this wool. This is a great, bright, happy blue with yellow in it. Could you hook water with it? You might be able to. I'm not sure if I'd like that yellow in the water, but you could try it. You could hook this part and leave this little bit for maybe some flowers on the shore. Give that a try. These yellow stripes are far enough apart that they're not going to show up in every loop. They're only going to show up infrequently. So you could experiment with that, but this would be great in a blue floral. I would love that in there. And if you haven't figured it out by now, my mind always goes to florals. I love to hook floral rugs. B037, a little herringbone. It's got a bright turquoise. This to me speaks water. Combine this up with something else so that you can get the reflections on the water, and you've got something pretty darn special. This could also, it's subtle enough that you could use it as a background behind something. But herringbones are so special and so hard to find that I would tend to use that as a feature in something. But like I said, water, mountains, this would be good for distant mountains. So this particular one could be mixed in with this one, but you need something else in between it. This is another one that is a little bit of a herringbone, kind of a turquoise and a dark green, but when you hook it, you just get this blue, rich blue-green color that is just delightful. B39. Now, we saw one that was purple. This one is navy blue. It's the same kind of a really dark texture. It's got lots of interesting color in it. But when it hooks, it's basically a solid, but it's still, I think, better than a solid. But is definitely more navy blue than what the other purple one was. This wool can be used any place you want to use a blue. You can put this in primitive water. I think I like some other ones better for realistic water. But this is great for primitive water. When you cut it this way, you've got some strips, even though they're wide, that have a little bit of a white flicker on them, and so you can use those to your advantage as you're hooking. This is a newer wool. It actually coordinates beautifully with B031, and it's got a little bit of a gray blue and a little bit of a lighter blue. This makes a great primitive sky. This one is called Cleo. I think I only have 2 yards of this. Any place you want some little extra energy and texture going on, particularly if you're bringing in just a pop of turquoise, this will help to reflect that color. I've used this in flowers quite a bit. Trying to think what else I've used it in. We used it in a building once. It was cute in a building. You can do pretty much whatever you want with it. This is a blue herringbone. I don't have a number on it, but if you call it light blue and white herringbone, I'll know what you're talking about. I've got 1, 2, 3. It was like 5 yards. I don't have an inventory number on it. This is probably what I bought or what I had left at the end of a bolt. It's great for over dyeing. You can put just about any color over this. Imagine this with a green, and you'd have a brighter green and then a darker green. It would be wonderful from that point of view. That's it for the blue wools. Whether you're hooking sky or water or florals or a building or think of something blue. Whatever you're hooking, there's bound to be something in this category of blue that you like. Now, to order it, you simply go to cindygayrughooking.com/wool. That link will take you straight to that page where you can order it. And what you're going to need to do is go to the bottom, check the inventory list, make sure it's still in inventory, and then go back up to the top, choose the size that you want. Do you want a strip? A strip is washed, ready to go. It's a 1/16 of a yard. Do you want a half yard, which is a fat half, meaning I cut a yard off the bolt and then I split it in the opposite direction. So your strips will still be 36 inches long. Or do you want a full yard, which is where you're going to get your best bang for the money? Now, my inventory sheet only inventories yards. So if something says sold out, I might still have it in half yards or in strips. You'll have to get in touch with me and I will physically check the shelf and see what I have on hand. And maybe I can fill your order that way for you. So that's it for blues. Stay tuned for the next one.